Starsector, one of my favorite indie games of all time. It's a sci-fi tactics game where you outfit and lead a fleet of ships, and later on, you manage colonies. Developed by the small team at Fractal Softworks, it's described as Star Control 2 with a little bit of Master Orion 2 with dash and Mech Warrior. But I think it's safe to say it's got a little Warband DNA too, which for me, that's good. I bought the game at the recommendation of the Lord and Master Seth, and in his review, I think he does a better job at concisely explaining what the game is about, better than I ever could, to be honest with you. But what I can do is walk you through one of my playthroughs in a guided sort of way and explain things as they come up to show you what the sort of moment-to-moment gameplay is like. So before we get started, I'll go through my mod list briefly, and I'll show you why I think these are the ones that expand nicely on the original. First off in the list, you got your straight-up content mods. These add new factions, ships, weapons, encounters, that kind of stuff. The ones that I've personally curated all keep in theme with the vanilla ship designing conventions, because there are some mods that go outside of that and are kind of out of place and a little too high-tech for the setting, in my opinion. So these are the ones I've curated that are kind of like lore-friendly-ish. Then you got the big boys. These are large to medium-sized expansions that add a lot of new gameplay features, colony structures, and things out in the world to discover. And last up, we have the minor additions. These are small mods that add like quality of life features, things like a mini-map in fights, and a little more control over how your AI's weapon groups work. Alright, that's enough of the preamble. No more joshing around. Let's just get right into it.
My name is Johnny Freight. You got cargo that needs moving, I'm your man. When my pappy died, all he left me was a small loan of 20,000 credits, 3 rust buckets, and a crew of salty spaces. But if you need something, someplace that ain't where you're at, there ain't no one you can rely on more than Johnny's boys. Yes, we have been known to do business with less than savory types from time to time, but who ain't a little dirty after the collapse.
Welcome to the Persian sector. Some time ago, the interstellar gate system that connected the human domain together mysteriously failed. Maybe it was megacorporate meddling, maybe divine intervention, or maybe something more sinister. No one knows for certain. In the aftermath, the remains of a domain battle group assumed control in the following chaos. The plan was to wait until word arrived from the outside or the gates came back online. That was 200 years ago. The gates are still cold, and the military hegemony is still in control. In some places, however, various conflicts have split the sector into competing governments and minor polities. Criminal syndicates, rival dictatorships, some of these megacorps are still kind of hanging around. It's bad news. A lot of technology is lost to time, and the future of humanity is bleak. But straight up, we don't care about any of that right now. It's the post-apocalypse, and we're space truckers. Sweet. At times, we're dead broke. We're scraping by just enough to be able to afford gas. But once we're out of that initial debt, the goal is to start expanding our fleet, because right now, we ain't got shit. If anything attacks us, we're boned. We need to start getting some more combat-capable vessels, at least something that can hold off pirates and anybody who wants to try and steal our cargo. Pretty early on, we get lucky and we snag a Venture after a nearby battle. It's a little dinged up, but it runs, and that's all we need at this stage of the game. We're going to start outfitting it piecemeal as we stop at stations on our trucking routes and throw on bits and pieces until we got a functional warship. Don't worry, later on I'll get into designing your ships a little more in depth after we learn how combat works. But right now I make sure to keep my drive speed high so we can buy illegal black market gear and still outrun cops like your booze cruising uncle in his Mustang. Later on, after some more space trucking, we snag a Condor. It's the cheapest carrier money can buy. It's got bad weapon mounts, poor flux stats, and this means it's a pure support ship. And then, well, it's right back to trucking. In one of our cargo runs, we get caught by a lucky pirate. Now, I guess it's time to explain combat, since it's the main thing you're going to be doing in this game. In fights, you only directly control one ship. The rest, the AI handles. Now, you can tard wrangle them a bit with commands, but you really only can do that if you got the points for it, and they regen slowly over time. Every ship in the game uses flux. Shields, guns, active abilities all cost flux. Think of it as like your energy meter, and when it fills up, you overload. Now my frigate's fast, and can overload ships quickly. It's not flux efficient though, and has a relatively small shield. With my other ships having more of a support profile at this point, we'll have to pull a lot of weight in this fight.
Receiving incoming transmission. Receiving incoming transmission.
A hard-fought battle, short and decisive. We scrap the losing ships and we resume our route, all in a day's work. Sometime later, I grab a roamer. It's frankly an odd ship. It's a civilian, low-flux pool with an okay set of weapon arcs. I like to build it as yet another support vessel, plenty of point defense and missiles. Now when it comes to designing ships, you have a lot of control. Ships have a baseline hull and weapon arcs, but can be totally customized outside of that. Weapon types, shield strength, and flux sinks all decide what a ship's role will be. Hull mods are a crucial piece of this equation and can support the way you want your ship to behave in combat. Building them in costs a story point and lets you squeeze some more performance out of a ship. It should be noted that when you're designing ships, you should be testing them in simulations. This is free and gives you a feel for how your design performs. Design, test, iterate, repeat. Now this can't account for every variable, however. You can never truly predict how a ship performs in a real encounter until you're in one. Now I've been slowly outfitting my fleet with a goal in mind. At this point, we've lucked into a survey ship, which helps us scan planets. We bought a salvage rig, we've got 2 combat-capable ships, and we began the game with a fuel tanker and a generously sized cargo vessel. Now these are all the necessary ingredients for our first forays beyond the core.
Beyond the core. Pappy always said it was full of lost colonies, ghost ships, and stranger things yet. I don't know how much of it I believe, but one thing's for sure. Sounds like a lot of loose cargo. Diane, tell the boys to report back within the day. We've got a job to do.
Right away, sir.
For our first outing, we venture out to the Sagan system. Supergiant stars usually have a lot of planets orbiting them. More chance there'll be ruins or places to survey. We're going to leapfrog from the Mojave system towards Sagan. Whew, they almost got us. Rogue AI. They're everywhere outside the core worlds. Officially, the Hegemony purged them from the sector in a lengthy campaign. They lied. Gameplay-wise, they're fast, hard-hitting ships with deep flux reserves. Some even have exotic systems like phasing around the battlefield. If they catch us, we will not last long. Overall, it was a decent score. Found several blueprints for ships and weapons, some valuable AI cores, and a bunch of spare trade goods. We even found a couple of OK wrecks. The Aurora is a powerful, high-tech cruiser, but it's got some damning hull damage that moderately reduces its combat potential. Way too costly to repair at this stage of the game. It'll just accumulate docking fees. The other ship, a Portico, is damaged too, but its damages don't stop it from fulfilling its role. It's a small ship with a heavy shield meant to soak damage and draw fire from other ships. We keep it for later. Now that our fleet is laden down with loot, we need some place to stash it. Nova Maxios and the Magex system is independent, centrally located, and produces supplies for cheap. For a small fee every month, we can store equipment and salvage here. Ships too. Sounds like you got yourself a deal, buddy. While we're here, I should note that all of the core systems have pretty fleshed out lore. This system used to have a thriving colony in Maxios. After the collapse, its terraforming efforts halted and failed. Refugees flooded a nearby industrial facility and were successful in transforming it into a new home. Some weren't so lucky though, and are still trapped on the surface of old Maxios. Current population is unknown. There is no stable ruling polity. Looters and survivors clash occasionally. The weapons blink in electromagnetic noise of low-level combat sputtering like a gas giant's electrical storms. Jesus Christ, what's it like down there? Meanwhile, a pirate warlord has hunkered down elsewhere in the system, and the Tritachyon Corporation is taking advantage of the refugee crisis for cheap labor. Oh yeah, Tritach. The local branch of the company is a major player in the political situation in the sector. They're the guys that invented the illegal Remnant AI. And guess what? They're probably still doing it. The Hegemony was so convinced that wars had been fought over it. It ended in a stalemate. The writing in this game is short and sweet. It's good stuff. Getting back to the game, we sell all of our AI cores to some Tritach goons. They buy them at the highest price, and we need the money. we also pick up a Gallivanter frigate. It comes with built-in survey sensors and a suite of electronic warfare systems. Plus, it's got a relatively low upkeep cost and an okay combat profile. It'll fit right in. For our next expedition, I've got my sights on this cluster of stars right here. They're easy to access on the main Hyperlane highway, and close to the core means it's easy on gas mileage. We resupply and head out. Twin stars. One planet in that system might have made a nice colony given the right infrastructure were built. More remnant fleets patrol this star system. Better be careful. Whoa, this planet is a little subpar, to be honest. But this one next door is alright. Maybe we should consider colonizing some of these. A small remnant fleet is following us. We could ignore it, but we kind of want to salvage this station. Sometimes you have to defeat a fleet in order to do that. It's part of like a random event. And we don't want to come out of a hard-fought fight, only to let our damaged fleet be hit by an opponent we could take fully prepared right now. Better safe than sorry.
Always be careful with your tools.
Whoa, we definitely cannot take them. Finish up scrapping this system, and I leave. I'm a little spooked by that pirate fleet. The next system is uneventful, save for another gorgeous view. We wrap up and start to head back home. In the meantime, here's a couple of tips for when you're out in the galactic wilds. Make sure to active sensor burst any gas giants you come across. This will let your character / crew learn a little more about how hyperspace functions. I assume this has something to do with how gas giants are always usable to jump back into real space, maybe because they're comprised of so much dense mass. A beacon of matter tugging down on the sea of non-matter. This will help progress this bar. which nets you bonuses to traveling in hyperspace. Things like going faster and being more fuel efficient. The other golden rule is always scrap twice. Not only will you get more supplies after you initially scrap a station, you may also find some more blueprints or items you missed first time around. Oh, get the fuck away from me. Anyway, we're back in known space and find the nearest spot to offload our loot. Survey data, ship components, extra heavy machinery, all bring in a good profit. Keep the weapons to add to our collection. Now, while we were out there, we surveyed a handful of okay worlds. They had quality resource deposits, good access to trade lanes, close proximity to the core worlds, and ample stable points for relays. These are all markers for good colony prospects. Maybe we should consider settling down. The spot would be a nice jumping off point for further explorations into the great unknown. It would, however, thrust us ass first into the galactic stage. Rival factions might see us as easy pickings and take us for all we got. Food for thought. Oh, gee, Johnny, I don't know. I ain't got the first clue about farming or mining or anything, really.
Clayton, if I ever trust you with more than turning over rocks planetside, then the rest of the crew must be drinking vacuum.
Oh, well.
Now ain't none of you gonna be farm hands or digging ditches. We will pay some other saps to do it. I'm just saying, it is high time we begin to consider entertaining a more, entrepreneurialist mindset. At the next station, we will be taking on some more civil types. Skilled folk of a more bookish demeanor. And I want everyone on their bestest behavior until them folk is dirt side. Now, if anyone believes that this falls is outside the purview of their job set and such, they will be delivered safely, pay stub in hand, to a port along our route. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Well, all right then.
Sadly, that's where our story ends for now. So where does that leave us? Well, next time we're going to upgrade our fleet, get into some bigger fights, and carve out our own corner of the sector. But if you made it to the end of this video, I guess what I wanted to say is thank you. I really enjoyed making this. It was kind of a fun experiment. And if any point you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing because I'm definitely planning on making more. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.